Start with the horseshoe section on the top. The first section placement is critical as both shape proportion will depend on it. Allowing for natural growth patterns section the crown to the temple. Note, I have purposely placed a section on the top of the parietal ridge to ensure we don't begin to build up too much weight around the sides of the top. I'm starting off with a number 4 guard fully closed to debolt to start my fade. This is my first guideline with my lever closed, slightly dropping it as you get behind the ear. The same method applies to the other side. Second step is with lever fully open, making sure that it's finger width size. This is number 1 fully open. Again with a finger width size. I'm using 1.5 guard fully open. This is a number 2 guard fully open. Just make sure you are flicking out with each guard you're using. Last but not the least, my number 3 guard fully open, marrying up with my number 4 guard that I previously used for the first guard. I've turned my trimmers round for my guide later for my foil shaver. This is my half guard positioned in 3/4. That's the second click from the bottom. As you can see, I'm using the edges of my clippers. This is not to push the fade any higher. I'm using my number 1 guard position in 3/4. That's the second click from the bottom. Blade fully closed, eliminating my first initial guideline. Lever positioned at 3/4. Blade fully open, using just the edge of my blade, making sure not to take the fade any higher and just getting rid of those dark area. I'm using my trimmers to get rid of the hair at the bottom, ready for my foil shaver. I'm using my foil shavers up to where the faint line is, where my trimmers initially made earlier. I'm using the edge of my trimmers to blend skin to bold. I'm using clipper over comb for debulking, and same method applies for the other side. I'm using a number 1 guard fully open, as I can still see some dark patches. At this stage, this is what I call refining. I'm using the edge of my trimmers for more mobility and sharper lineup. As you can see, I'm taking my time with this for more precision outcome. I picked up my scissors to pick out any dark spots that our clippers can't pick. I'm using my cutthroat razor to edge up his line. I'm using scissor over comb to soften the transition. To establish the length, take vertical section from front hairline to crown and cut square line. This will help create a guideline to follow while cutting the top. Note, when cutting, allowing for natural growth patterns and hair texture, as length may need to be adjusted depending on how the hair reacts. Start directly in front of the crown, take horizontal sections and lift the hair up. Point cut following center guideline created. Continue forward using small sections, using the previous section as guide. Note, second side uses the same cutting method as the first side. To connect the top to the sides, take a small horizontal section through the side. Starting just behind the ear, comb straight out and cut a square line, using the previous cut lower section as a guide. Note, when front of the hairline is reached, over direct this section backwards to know for any fineness in this area. Introduce scissor over comb using the blending shear to help soften the transition from the sides to the top. I'm using Salt Spray by Crazy Ball for the perfect styling. While drying, styling the hair, visually check the texture, balance and overall shape of the haircut. Check enough length has been left at the crown. Also in sewing, we don't have too much weight being built up around the sides of the top. Finally, ensure throughout the fade, all areas blend together harmoniously without harsh lines. I'm using a pencil to highlight his C-cup, and for me, it's more visually pleasing as you look at it. I'm using Space Dust by Crazy Ball to give the haircut some texture and some more volume. If you guys want to try out any of the Crazy Ball products, use my code Nunez10.